This is another iRaw podcast.
Welcome to Wildly Unplug, sharing stories of nature, conservation, and creativity. Discover what develops when you unplug and step outdoors. Steffi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You've got a website and it's in essence yourbeautiful.com. Before we start talking about that, because it seems very powerful and empowering for people, but what led you to that moment? Why did you want to start that?
Oh, interesting question. What led me there is feeling a little bit lost myself over the course of my life, throughout different phases of my life, and then eventually finding the way back to me actually through having some challenges around health, mental health, emotional health, and starting therapy for myself. And bit by bit, understanding that I lacked self-love. One of the things that I lacked was self-love and really understanding myself, loving myself. And I guess so many steps after that, I got to the point where I felt like I wish that more people would really feel and see how beautiful they are on the inside, even if we have our wounds from the past and, experiences that kind of hold us back sometimes. That's why I actually started this project mission where, in essence, you're beautiful, like really seeing your essence and seeing your inner beauty and honoring it. Yeah.
What was the aha moment for you where you realize I'm not loving myself like I should?
I wasn't feeling great. I didn't have too much energy. I had a lot of negative thinking also about myself, a lot of negative self-talk. And yeah, like I said, it was bit by bit, like becoming more aware of that, like what is actually going on in my inner world, and then realizing, oh, wait a minute, this is not a kind thought to think about myself. Or, feeling perhaps like down or even depressed. And then digging into that, like, where does that come from? Maybe I don't feel good enough about myself, or I put myself down, and creating awareness around that. That was actually the aha moment, I guess, when I decided to go in therapy for the first time, was probably the biggest aha moment. Yeah.
So when people go to your website and check out what you're doing, what are some of the things that you're helping to guide people to do?
Yeah, there's different ways to do it, but so I offer tapping, for example, like emotional freedom technique, where we like tap different points on the body to release stress. That we can also do. So I'm a psychologist officially. I'm a clinical psychologist. I have a degree in that, but I do look at it in a more holistic way, meaning that we also do perhaps meditation. We also look at your not only the mind but also the emotional health, the physical health, the spiritual health even. So I try to zoom out in that way. And I also do intuitive art. I make intuitive art for people. And so all of these services, and then the intuitive art also has the drawings and the written messages and the paintings, so it's broad. But the idea actually is to guide people to connect with themselves again, because we're very much in general, and this has happened to me as well, obviously, we're very much like looking outward when, maybe trying to live up to expectations from the outer world, or we feel like we have to be a certain way, while actually when we really connect more with ourselves, we can feel like, who am I really? What is it that I want? What are my principles when I don't think about the outer world for a second? So that's what we do, depending on obviously what someone is struggling with. But yeah, that's the idea, the process.
I like that you said that you are a therapist, like you've gone to school and everything for that, because there are a lot of classes that I've looked into like online, and they're like, oh, you can become an art therapist. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable saying that because I've not gone through all the classes and everything that it takes, all the studying to be a therapist. So how do you find that like therapy and painting and tapping and nature and all that, how do they all play together?
That's an interesting question. You mentioned the word nature, which I think, okay, so there's like Mother Nature, right? We all know what we're referring to when we say Mother Nature. But actually, we are a reflection of Mother Nature, and we also have our nature, the way that we are. And I believe that, and that is also why which I actually didn't mention, but I also take people into nature to do therapy there, because nature can really like calm us down, calm the nervous system, quiet the mind, heal the emotions. And so that is a very helpful resource, I feel, to help us with whatever we might be struggling with. And but to make that parallel and to feel the connection with ourselves, like from a place where we can feel our natural self again, which actually has a lot to do with nature. For example, if we look at a river, like a river and how it flows, and you try to mirror yourself to that, like where am I in that, like how do I flow through my life, or how would I like things to flow a little bit more, and in this way, as we open up to the bigger nature that is around us, we also get more in touch with who we are as a person and our natural state of being. I hope that's a response to your question.
Yeah. Hey, you had mentioned something earlier about other people's perceptions of you. And I saw something online the other day, and it was a picture of an empty room. And it was like, these are all the people that pay for your bills. And at the end of the day, it's just yourself. Like, you have to be in touch with yourself, because people can move, people come in and out of your life. You have to be in touch with yourself and what you really want, or you're not going to be happy. Do you find that when people are doing the painting, or do you guide people through paintings, or are you doing the paintings for them, or both?
Both, yes, both. So it depends on what people want to experiment with. There's people who are like, I want a soul painting. I want to see what that might look like on canvas, for example. But then there's also people who want to do the whole intuitive painting journey. And the good thing is that you don't need experience, or you don't need to have gone to school or whatever. There's people who are like, last time I took a brush in my hand was when I was 3 years old, which is fine, because it's not about what it looks like. It's about really like having the experience and then allowing the process to really help you and guide you through whatever it is. But of course, I'm also there as an external guide to help people, like maybe do exercises to connect with what they're doing, to tune into their intuition, and to paint or to create from a place of not the mind, what it should look like, or my goodness, these colors don't combine, or it's all like the mental activity. And we try to dive a little deeper in what do I feel like doing, make it playful and go with that kind of flow. Yeah, just like the river, as I said.
Yeah. You said soul painting. Can you describe a little bit more what that is?
Yeah, so I personally believe that we all have a soul, which is like the deepest, innermost part of our being, something like this. And the more that we connect with our soul, actually, the happier we are, because our soul is really like the core of our being, and all of the desires. It's really the essence of who we are. A soul painting, when I do a soul painting, I aim to represent at least a part of what the soul of that person is expressing in that moment. So that's basically how it goes. And obviously, it requires me to meditate and to go in a deeper state of connection, to draw upon nature, because I live very close to nature. And yeah, so I try to empty myself, and then I allow something to flow through that is a representation of what nature is showing right now. Yeah, this is what the soul of this person could look like if we were able to make it like a visual thing.
Like a soul portrait.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's really cool. And then that's different from an intuitive painting, because the intuitive painting is just allowing yourself to play. And
exactly.
Okay.
Yes, and then sometimes people will ask for a painting, for example, that just to put up in their living room, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their soul. They're more like, just make a beautiful painting and make sure it matches whatever my furniture, which is perfect as well. But for me, like this is my way of painting, is not technical. It's more intuitive. Some people have that gift. It's very technical and they can paint the mountain and whatever. Unfortunately, I cannot do this for you. What I can do, if people were like, oh, I grew up near that valley or mountain or whatever, I could tune into the energy of that and perhaps the soul of that mountain, and then paint from that space, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you had mentioned tapping earlier too. Can you describe a little bit more about that? I feel sometimes when I get stressed, I find myself like tapping my chest or like my head. Is that something that we just instinctually do, or what are the benefits of that?
Yeah, I think you're very right. It's actually, yeah, again, it's like our natural response to something that we're going through, whatever it is. And we have this body, this vessel that actually knows how to balance itself. But since we're very much, like I said at the beginning, like we're very much looking outward because we're programmed that way to make sure that we get through the day, and we're doing all these things and we have these goals and all of this is done, and we forget to tune into the body, or we're just a little bit out of touch with the body, or a lot, as was the case for me. But anyways, to come back to the tapping, yes, I think in that moment, it's like when you have your belly hurts, you will place your hand there, or you're cold, you'll hug yourself. It's things that we do, and it's helpful because we know that kind of helps because it's in our instinct, as you said. And as for the tapping, with the tapping, we actually tap on certain points, energy points in the body that are designed, or at the very least have the potential to release energy, stuck energy. Because usually when we're stressed, we're more tense, and then energy builds up, and it cannot flow anymore. So we're no longer like the river in that moment. We're more like stagnated. So by tapping the points, the energy can start to flow again. That's what happens through the tapping. Yeah.
Very good. And you said you take people out into nature. Is this a guided experience? Is it like a therapy session where you're talking out in nature? Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, it can be all kinds of things. Just like there's a forest like nearby here, and I've taken people there or groups there for intuitive painting. And then everybody just picks their spot. And obviously I guide everybody like from the beginning. So the first step is always to find a spot where you feel safe. Because the safety, like feeling, okay, this is my place right now, at the very least right now. That's always a starting point. So I take them out in nature, and then I'll pick like a spot, and then we start the process, and I walk around and then guide wherever guidance is needed. Yeah, so that's one thing, the intuitive painting. The other thing is definitely also therapy sessions where we tap, where we do maybe like a little bit of talking and then like a meditation together. I feel like everything can really be done out in nature. Of course, given that it doesn't rain or whatever, there's no storm going on, that might be a bit more tricky. But I definitely believe that nature in and of itself is such a resource in our healing or working towards more well-being, that this is just such a privilege. If we can do whatever kind of therapy or activity out in nature, it really adds to the benefits. Yeah.
Do you find that people are more in touch with their intuitive nature when they're outside?
Exactly. Because it's like on a subconscious level, I feel like we recognize ourselves in nature. And that might sound a bit odd, but I'm talking more about the principles of nature. We usually feel better when we feel like a tree, we're like well grounded, and we feel our roots. And also, like I said, with the river, deep down inside, we all just want to flow through life. So it's like being in nature and looking at it and seeing how it works, so to speak, and then discovering within ourselves how we are actually similar, or at the very least have the potential to be that way as well. That really helps us, I feel, to move forward. Yeah.
Had a thought and then I lost it. Oh, do you have I know you can't say like names or anything. Do you have a success story or a story that you can share about somebody that came to you and through doing some artwork and getting in touch with nature, they came out on the other side feeling so much better?
Yeah, I think, going back to the intuitive painting, actually, I remember everybody obviously comes with a different intention because we're all different people. So even if we're in a group and we're friends, we all have our specific story. And I remember there being someone, first we did this exercise with natural pigments. It's like a kind of like powder thingy, but it's actually really drawn from plants. And then people can, it's very funny because a little bit of this powder, if you add a little bit of water, it's very abundant. It's like the color is very vibrant. And then I remember one person saying, and she had been going through this process where she felt a bit more, she was feeling a lot of scarcity and not knowing how to move forward. I remember her saying about, it was like some maybe at work or she was experiencing this at work, but also at home, like her relationships, like she didn't really feel like she could be herself. And then with this simple small exercise that we did at the beginning, she noticed I had no idea that out of this little bit of powder, like so much would come out of it. And then we moved into this other exercise where we really used like a canvas to paint. And she said, I feel so much more free now to actually be myself and maybe be myself a little bit more in my relationships as well, because that was one of the things that was blocking her. So at the very least, she had an opening in her mind around the scarcity mindset. Wait a minute, maybe like a little bit can give me a lot, which is huge for the mind, because usually when we can have very rigid mental structures where we're always like choosing the same thing because we really believe that's how it should be, or that's how it is, or I'll never have enough, that kind of belief systems. And so at the very least, she could break out of that. And also like the feeling that maybe it is okay if I'm a little bit more myself in my relationships, and to have the courage to do that, and then feel like, which effect does that have on my relationships, or how can that evolve? Yeah.
That is, wow. Yeah, that is cool. Do you have a particular exercise or activity that you find yourself gravitating towards, and maybe that changes throughout the course of your life and your healing journey? What is an activity that you really enjoy doing?
I do all kinds of exercises. I also need it to keep myself balanced. Also, I feel that when I offer services, I try to experiment myself and experience the exercises that I give to others, obviously. So I always test them on myself. And yeah, I like to journal a lot. I always go back to journaling, definitely. Journaling is I actually don't even leave the house without having some paper with me or something I can write on or in or whatever. And that really helps me a lot, I feel, writing. But also, for example, one of the things I do, it's such a simple exercise, but usually like the most simple exercises are like very, very powerful. I like to draw spirals. Yeah, and I just do the spirals. So I'm not thinking about form or what it should look like. It's more like spirals. And you can a spiral can either go outward or inward, depending on how you look at it. So when I want to tune in more to myself, maybe out all day, or maybe I had a stressful day and I feel like, oh my God, I need to come back to myself, then I draw the spiral inward. When I tend to feel in a different situation, maybe I feel a little bit stuck, or I feel like I'm feeling off, and I feel like I want to liberate myself, I want to break free from this, and I will draw the spiral outward. It's such a simple thing, but not just once, you repeat it. And it becomes like a meditation, but it's an exercise that you just do it until you feel like, okay, at the very least I've calmed down a little bit, or I feel an opening or whatever.
I'm gonna have to try that now. I like that. Yeah, it's a simple shape, like you said, but you can use it in two totally different ways. Do you have a favorite moment when you think about nature and outdoors? What is a standout moment for you where you're like, that was just the absolute coolest experience I've ever had out in nature?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one because I've had so many. Let's see. Can I think about that for a second and get
Absolutely,
back to
yeah. um let's see, you talked about rivers a lot. Rivers or mountains, what do you prefer, or both?
Oh my goodness, that's an even harder question. I prefer to go back to the other one. It's a very interesting question because I live in the Andes in Peru. So it's mountains, and then there are a lot of rivers actually, with lots of clean water just coming from the mountain, right? Yeah, and that's amazing. There's also some very amazing lakes up there. I like the water element a lot. And I have to say, I like the combination of both, how we have that here. But I know that's not the question, but I must say I miss the sea, because the sea, the ocean, different being, different soul, very different. So I do feel that at the very least, like twice a year, I need to go to Mama Ocean because she calls me. I have to go. Yeah. But I would say I will always need the combination of maybe the mountain or the valley, which is more like the earth element, and then the river and the water being obviously the water element. So I would say the combination. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just spent 2 weeks in Florida by the ocean, and I went to dinner just the other day, and we had the choice between a restaurant that was inland a little bit or one right on the water. And I'm like, because we have the Ohio River right here, and I'm like, I got to be right on the river. The water calls to me. I don't know why, but it does. Do you have a favorite animal? I'm trying to make this more common between adults talking about their favorite animals, because you never hear adults talking about them.
Oh, that's true. Oh my goodness. You know what? I have so many. There's a lot, because I also feel that every animal also has a kind of soul, like an archetype. They have a meaning, a message to bring. And I would say like the butterfly is one of my favorites. If I'm going to have to pick one, I would say the butterfly. Yes.
I feel like that fits from what little I've known about you. And like you went through a change and a chrysalis, and you've
Oh,
blossomed
yes.
into something beautiful and inspiring others with beauty.
Yes, the butterfly has been with me. I've needed her a lot. Definitely. Yeah. What's yours?
My favorite animal is the sea turtle.
Oh, I like that.
I love sea turtles. I found out I was pregnant with my son, and the morning before I was going on a big trip to help out at a sea turtle hospital. And I had a very rough pregnancy. And right from the very beginning, it was very difficult. And going to this facility and seeing these sea turtles that had been hit by boats and were missing fins and going through like really horrific physical trauma. And I'm like, okay, if these turtles can do it, I can do it. And just they're so stoic and brave, and there's just something about them. I love turtles.
I think they're like ancient. They're so wise and beautiful. Wow. Yeah, that's very significant, it seems. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
Did you have time to think about your favorite?
I did. And you know what? The funny thing is that actually you have quite a bit of animals also in your space, right? And I just saw it was funny when the experience came back to my memory. I saw the hummingbird behind you, the hummingbird, yeah. And actually, I had an experience with a hummingbird, which we see a lot here, actually. However, I was in the forest just nearby. And yeah, and there's this little stream. So I was by the water, but also surrounded by the trees and the wind. And I had actually an instrument, like a flute, with me. And I just felt like playing it a little bit. I don't play it very well. I play it, and I just like the sound of it. And I was playing, and all of a sudden this hummingbird comes so close. It felt like almost like it came to, I don't know if that's actually what happened. In my mind it was like, oh, it came to whatever, the sound, and it was so close. It was the closest I had ever seen. It was like a 1 meter. It was like, okay. And I just sat there and I was playing and I was looking at the hummingbird and I was like, this is the most amazing experience. It felt very precious and very synchronized as well. I felt like I was in a kind of flow out in nature, and everything was, I don't know, just flowing together. So that was for me one of the amazing experiences I've had out in nature. Yeah.
That is very cool. There's just something so special when you get up, or an animal chooses to get up close to a human, because usually I feel like we're used to them running away from us. They choose to come up and check us out. It just feels like a special gift.
Yeah, I agree.
So how can people find you? Do you do anything like online, or is it all in person?
No, it is both in person and online. Paintings or drawings or whatever can also be shipped to whatever country people live in. So yeah, and then also like online, I also work online, also art therapy, because that's usually what people wonder about, is it also work online. And it does, of course, one needs to feel resonance with the online medium. However, I feel that a lot has to do with the connection, like we're talking now and we're tuning into each other and speaking. And I think that space that we're in allows the therapy to flow. So yeah, art therapy can be done, holistic psychology can be done through the online medium, tapping, whatever it is. But of course, if someone feels inspired to come to Peru, this is a lovely place. People are welcome here as well. Definitely.
Perfect. Where can they find you then? That's good to know. You can do online too.
Yes. So my website, it's a long one. It's like you said at the beginning, www.inessenceyouarebeautiful.com. So that's where people can find me, and there you can find my email address, my cell phone number. I'm also on Instagram. People can find me there. And if they want to find me physically, I am near Cusco, which is like a city in Peru. And this place is called the Sacred Valley of the Incas. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
Yes, it is. It's an amazing place, and people have very beautiful experiences here as well. So yeah.
Do you post a lot of your surroundings on your Instagram?
I do, not all the time, but I do. I try to share also this amazing space and abundance that is here. Yeah, definitely. Because I also like we've been talking about, for me, it's also part of what I offer. So,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I will be sure to tag all of that in the show notes so people can hop right over and check out everything that you're doing. And before we go, do you have one tip for someone that would like to connect or maybe reconnect with nature?
Do you mean outer nature or inner nature, or both?
Ooh, how about both? Why not?
Oh, okay. I just made it so much harder for myself. Not necessarily. I think getting out in nature is that's just what it is, because nature does the trick. You don't have to, I feel like a lot of it is just being there and just being like nature. It's not like you have to go and you have to do something specific. It's more observe, perhaps. Open your awareness, observe, really look at things and allow it to come in, to soak in that vibration, that nature of which we are all a part of, which helps us recognize ourselves in that as well. So I would say that. But also, if you, for some reason, you're very far from a place in nature, you can also bring nature to yourself, right? You can have plants, flowers at your home, whatever you feel like having. I think I also live out in nature pretty much, but I also have plants in the house. So it's, that combination. And with your inner nature, obviously, outer nature is going to help a lot on a subconscious level. However, if you want to make it a little bit more concrete, I would say, you know how when we're kids, it's like with the favorite animals, you're so in tune with yourself and you just do what you're not so much like thinking about what will others think of me, and you just do your thing much more than when you're an adult. So I would say whatever gave you a lot of joy and happiness when you were a kid, try and see how you can either do that again or maybe grab the essence of that and do that in the here and now. So for people who, for example, I don't know, they would sing a lot or they would enjoy riding their bicycle, try and reconnect with those things, because I feel they're very pure. What we used to do as a kid usually says a lot about our essence, because we were very much free to be ourselves in that moment. Or we felt at the very least a lot of freedom in many cases. So yeah, I guess that would be it for now. Yeah.
That is great advice. Steffi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Lauren.
Hey, thank you. And until next time, get outside and see what develops. Wildly Unplugged podcast is a production of Wild Development Studio. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by individuals during Wild Development Studio's productions do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Wild Development Studio or its affiliates. Participation in any activities, expeditions, or adventures discussed or promoted during our content may involve inherent risks. It is strongly advised that individuals conduct thorough research, seek professional guidance, and take all necessary precautions before engaging in such activities or venturing into wilderness areas. Wild Development Studio, its representatives, or employees shall not be held responsible for any injury, loss, damage, accident, or unforeseen incident that may occur as a result of participating in activities inspired by or discussed in our content. By choosing to engage with our content or act upon any information provided, individuals do so at their own risk and discretion.
For more great iRaw podcasts, visit irawpod.com. That's IROARPOD.com.